Hello, writers. This is take two. Come write with me. My name is Mykela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Mykela. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today is Tuesday, and we are going to discuss the terms dichotomy and turpitude. Let's start with dichotomy. Dichotomy is a division or a contrast between two things that are, or someone represents them as being opposed or entirely different. With dichotomy, there are two ideas, especially two opposed ideas, like war and peace, love and hate, good and evil, physical and metaphysical, health and sickness, civilized and uncivilized, science and mysticism, real and imaginary. You get the idea. We've talked about antonyms, but there is more to dichotomy than that. This is not just, is the water hot or cold? It's more along the lines of ideas. And that is why we're pulling this word in today. Think of your protagonist and your antagonist. Some of the lists I just gave above could easily be for the protagonist, while the opposed term or idea could be for the antagonist. Probably not necessarily war and peace, although your protagonist wants peace. Sometimes war is necessary to achieve peace. If your protagonist just wanted to accomplish things in a peaceful manner, the antagonist would just kill or annihilate him or her. So there has to be some way to stop the antagonist. Not necessarily talking about in today's world that you have to have war. I'm talking about our stories. So make that distinction there. We've gotten into society where we have a lot of civilized things and discussion and law and courts and stuff. So I'm not talking about today's time. I'm talking about your stories where you want to build to that climax. So we are building up to that war, that battle, that whatever at the end. So you can't just have a protagonist that's just like, oh, I just want to be happy. It's like the antagonist is going to take him down. Okay. Also, there is false dichotomy, which occurs when someone unfairly represents a situation as either or kind of scenario. This false dichotomy would be good for your antagonist to suggest to your protagonist. Think of the Matrix. The person representing the computer of the Matrix told Neo he would have to choose between rescuing the girl or the whole rest of humanity that was free. All he had to do was pick a door. This door, that door. That's all he had to do. Neo flew out the side of the building, at least to the best of my recollection, so that he didn't choose one of those options. Think of Star Wars. Darth Vader told Luke Skywalker to join him, and if he didn't join, then perhaps his sister would. But before that, or after that, Darth Vader said, join me or die. And that was the false dichotomy. Luke Skywalker, of course, didn't want to die, but he was deep in Darth Vader's lair, and at that point, when he was making that choice. So even if he successfully fought Darth Vader, he still had to escape, which seemed impossible. So that false dichotomy in that movie was like at the climax of that movie. Now, think of the movie Nick of Time. The whole premise of the movie was a false dichotomy. In this movie, Johnny Depp plays Gene Watson. And at the beginning of the movie, the antagonist kidnaps his daughter and gives him the choice to kill the governor of California or his daughter will die. This is that either or that we mentioned. Gene Watson also had a time limit to carry out the assassination. Thus, the name of the movie, The Nick of Time. So, what a choice. You either kill the governor or your daughter dies. And then what's to guarantee that the daughter will live even if you kill the governor? Because they could just offer anyway. Or they may have offered right off. And the other thing is that if you kill the governor and then you get caught, then you're not going to be able to father your daughter. There's all kinds of stuff in there. So what a choice, right? So you see, you have a dichotomous relationship between your protagonist or your main character and your antagonist or the character against your main character. But you can throw in some false dichotomies or some either or situations that make it seem impossible for your protagonist to succeed. In Nick of Time, Gene Watson couldn't back out of attempting the assassination until he knew someone else had rescued his daughter and she was safe. This film was from like 1995, so you should watch it and see how to artfully throw in false dichotomy. Now, our next term for today is turpitude, which is depravity, wickedness, debauchery, evil, degeneration, villainy, immorality, squalor, filth, or rot. People often use turpitude with the word moral. So, moral turpitude is an expression used in law to designate an act or behavior that gravely violates the sentiment or accepted standard of the community. Another definition is wicked, deviant behavior constituting an immoral, unethical, or unjust departure from ordinary social standards, such that it would shock a community. A less intense definition is a sinking to a state of low moral standards and behaviors. But this term in the more intense definition is for our antagonist. This is not stealing a loaf of bread because your character is hungry. These are vile acts. This is cringe-worthy stuff. In City of the Ancients, the reader mostly didn't see the vile stuff. The vile stuff that happened in Kirsha in history, they didn't see that. The vile stuff that happened in the village after the siblings left, reader didn't really see that either. Once the villagers found the 3 dead bodies, they were in shock and fear, especially since they didn't know and couldn't explain how the deaths happened. So that's your cringe-worthy stuff. So if we had actually seen that, that would have been the turpitude. The dissenters would have showed the turpitude there. In Dahia, the vile came when the dogs started attacking those in the witching community near the beginning of the story. The characters that went through that have images that they project about that later. So it's like you can just kind of see, in this story, you can kind of see the images that they have going on in their mind, and you can see how horrible they are. So later in the story, you hear about soldiers burning witches. And for what? It's not because the witching community hexed someone. It's just because they belong to the witching community. Moreover, the soldiers will kill innocent villagers if they suspect them of belonging to the witching community. So this is that vileness or degeneration. It's that moral turpitude that they don't have a good morality there. These soldiers that just kill because the king says to kill. To be honest, this is the hard part for me. Creating an evil or wicked antagonist. But for us to be good writers, our antagonists can't be righteous and virtuous or honorable. Most times our our antagonist can't even be savable or redeemable. Now, in the Star Wars, after the death of Darth Vader, you see his image near the sun, and Luke Skywalker looks back and he sees his dad, and he sees Obi-Wan, and he sees the little guy, and I don't remember that guy's name. Anyway, they're all there, and so it's like things are right with the world because he's been saved, but it's after his death that he's saved. And a lot of times we can't have that. Luke couldn't say, "Oh, I might save you," at that point. After he was, Darth Vader was dying, he said, "I want to save you." At that point, that's when Darth Vader said, "You already have." And so that made him savable, but it didn't make him, the protagonist or Luke Skywalker still had to conquer him or defeat him before that could happen. And in a lot of our stories, we don't have that opportunity to save or redeem that antagonist, because our protagonist needs to fear our antagonist, or fear losing something that the antagonist has no qualms about taking. In Nick of Time example above, the antagonist has no reservations about killing the daughter. She means nothing to him. There was no doubt in Gene Watson's mind, or the viewer's mind, that the antagonist would carry out his threat. If the threat to our main character is not real, there is no reason to continue to fight the antagonist. Something must move our stories forward. Something must, test our heroes and cause them that internal change. And so there has to be something real there. Now, I did tell you about a villain protagonist. So if you have one of those, then this term could be for your villain protagonist. Also, I told you that the force of nature could be your antagonist. And in this case, your character would not need to fight the antagonist, but simply survive. And nature isn't innately good or evil. If you don't remember all of the protagonists and antagonists, you could rewatch Season 1, Episode 3. I don't expect you to remember everything. I don't ever remember everything either. There is no test. However, it never hurts to review. Especially now that you've been writing on your stories, you go back and review, and you can say, "Oh, I have more options. I could do this." So it's just refreshing your memory and stuff is always a good thing. Join me Friday for Tahia, Chapter 18, Severed, Brother, and Truth. Now, at one point I told you there were 19 chapters for this story, but one chapter went really long. So I felt some mini climaxes and I broke it up. So now Tahia currently has 22 chapters. Join me Tuesday for some more terms for our characters. These are erudite, intrepid, and tenacious. These are great words and great characteristics for your characters. I can't wait to read your stories, so send them to writewithmykela@gmail.com. Leave a comment below on a movie or book that has false dichotomy, or name a character that has grave turpitude. It could even be a character that you created in your stories. And tell what that character did or does that makes him or her wicked or immoral. Don't forget to visit my website, bymykela.com, and read some character bios. If you hit like and subscribe and the bell notification, then we will continue to write together. We will continue this journey together. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with them. This is Mykela with Write with Mykela.